So a quick video about lesson stages and lesson planning. This is a triangle diagram that I keep coming back to because I just find it really helpful when I'm thinking about planning my next lesson, as you might be with your TP. So my head kind of thinks of it like this in 3 sections, which kind of really follows the PPP approach, which is largely for language, vocabulary, perhaps, or grammar, for example. So in that introduction, you want to include a warmer. And now that might not be related and perhaps shouldn't be related to the vocabulary or the language, the grammar that you're teaching. It could be on something else. It could even be a couple of questions that the students discuss is just to warm up their English, for example. Also in the intro or the first P of the PPPs, you're going to present the new Lexis. So this is where you're going to elicit, demo, check it with concept checking questions, and board the language. Of course, if you're teaching online and it's already on the slide, then that part is done for you. So you want to elicit perhaps what they can see in the pictures, for example. You could do a picture match, and you want to concept check it. So my picture of welly boots, would I wear the welly boots on a summer holiday, for example? So I'm going to concept check so that I know that the students have or haven't understood it. It's also a chance to drill the new vocabulary as well. And so through those aspects, I'm checking meaning, I'm checking form, and I'm checking pronunciation, MFP. Checking the meaning with my concept checking questions. I'm checking the form because they can see it on the slide, and I'm checking pronunciation because I'm drilling. That would all perhaps, or hopefully, be the first third of the lesson. So if you're teaching for an hour, the first 20 minutes. Once I have given that to the students, then I know we can move on to some accuracy practice, which is basically the controlled practice. So here I want to do some exercises, but because they've got all this information from the first 20 minutes of my lesson, they should be able to continue with some clear exercises. So this is controlled practice. You are doing this to make sure they've fully understood that language. So your typical controlled practice is like a gap fill or something. Now, I've seen so many gap fills here. I'm a bit sick of them. So there could be some other alternative exercises that you do. It could be a jumbled sentence that they need to unscramble. It could be a true and false question, or even multiple choice question. It could be an exercise we call close, which is a short text, maybe a paragraph, and they fit some words into gaps, but you give them the gaps. Or maybe you don't give them the gaps and it's a sort of a more challenging type of lesson. So there's a couple of different things you can do. And in an online lesson, if the intro is maybe 3, maybe 4 slides, I'd probably suggest that controlled practice is 2 exercises over 2 slides. So the first slide could be a gap fill, and then the second exercise could be something like the vocabulary, and they need to categorize it. So maybe clothing could be summer clothing, winter clothing, outdoor clothing, and they've got to categorize the vocab that they're working on. So this is just checking understanding of the vocabulary. I would keep it to probably something like 2 slides. You want this to also be about 20 minutes in total. And for each task, I'd probably do about 8 questions. If we're allowing sort of 20 minutes for that, then probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes for each task, so each slide, but that also allows you a good 5, 6, 7 minutes for feedback for both the tasks as well. So what they could do is they could take a screenshot of the task and then go into the breakout rooms to collaboratively work on the activity. or they could do the task in the main meeting room, give them some time to process the questions and answer them, and then they go in the breakout rooms to check their answers together with a partner. Either way you do it, they'll come back to the main room and you could reveal a slide with the answers on, and you could check through, or you could ask a couple of the students for their answers, or just even ask, is there anything to check on this exercise? Maybe they have some questions about it, or they have some different answers that they want to check with you. So once we've done some accuracy work, I'll then be happy that they could go into the production stage, which is sometimes called freer practice. Again, about sort of 20-ish minutes. This needs to be a meaty task that they have the opportunity to sort of play with the language. For those higher achievers, more advanced achievers in the group, they might want to take the language quite far and really kind of get to grips with it with some higher level vocabulary, for example. So some of the things they can do is you could use something like Padlet, and they can write sentences or a story on the Padlet board, or they could write sentences even in the chat, or to sort of make it a bit more challenging, you could give them scenarios, and they have to write about that, or even better, like something like a role play. So if you're doing language of travel, for example, and you've covered some language at the start and during the control practice of flights or train journeys or something, then this production stage could be that they write a role play at the train station, as an example. So you could have a role play on the slide, and you could do a couple of gap fills on there just to kind of set the scene. And then when they go into breakout rooms, and so it acts as a template. When they go into breakout rooms with their partner, they're going to rewrite that. And maybe you change it up. So the original as the demo and the template that you've shown on the slide is at the train station. But in the breakout room, they're going to write about catching a plane. So it's at the airport instead, or perhaps is at the bus station. So something a bit different to what you've actually demonstrated, so that it just ups the challenge. Another way you could do it is in the breakout rooms. They work collaboratively with a partner, and each breakout room has a different task, because that means if they're writing a role play, when they all come back and act it out, if time allows for that, which it should do if you've given 20 minutes for this, then each pair is acting out a different scenario. So that just kind of gives it a bit of variety. So they're like group one, I could have them buying a train ticket. Group two could be going to the check-in desk at the airport. Group three could be getting a taxi, but having two drop-offs or something. So something a little bit quirky, just to kind of up the challenge. And the fourth group could be at the bus station, and they've got to go via London or something, or they've got to change buses or something, just again to sort of up the challenge. Then they could create the role play together and then come back and act it out. Now, in order to keep it sort of effective timing, and not that the timing is going to go out of control, you could set a prompt such as it can only be 10 lines, or it's only 2 people talking, or it's only 6 lines, or some sort of way to limit how much they're working on this. Because if you don't set those limits, they'll just carry on working on that exercise in the breakout room forever. So you want to sort of put a limit on it, and that's probably the best way. If you're allowing 20 minutes for that production stage, then that you should have about 5 minutes to do some feedback. So that is possibly getting some ideas. So for example, Vlad, what was your role play about? Or Maya, were you at the train station or the airport? Just getting some ideas, feedback. or more importantly and more sort of focused is to do some delayed error correction. So whilst they're creating that role play and they're practicing it perhaps in the breakout room, you can listen and you can make some notes of any errors that you would like to feed back to the group and get them to figure out what the errors were and have a practice, for example. But I'll explain that in another video.